Hey everyone, Mamoru here. Just a quick heads up before we start. If you want to talk with me about anything, whether it's proposals, business stuff, or suggestions for future explainers, you can contact me right here at mamorumanhwa12@gmail.com. All right, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're unpacking one of the most wildly fascinating character arcs in modern fantasy storytelling. We are talking about Eren Ferreira. In his world, he's famously known as the Lazy Noble. Now, I want you to imagine a boy paralyzed by such intense, overwhelming grief over losing his mother that he literally confines himself to his bed for 10 long years, just eating, sleeping, and doing absolutely nothing else, totally stagnant. But today, we're going to explore what happens when that ultimate stagnation crashes headfirst into the core theme of our explainer, the fierce, undeniable clash between innate natural talent and sheer, unyielding effort.
So I got to pose this question directly to you right now, and I want you to keep it in the back of your mind as we unpack his story. What actually wins out in the end? Is it the natural talent you're just lucky enough to be born with, or is it extreme, borderline obsessive effort? Because Eren's journey, it's not just your standard fantasy adventure, it's the ultimate crucible, completely designed to test this very concept to its absolute limits.
Section 1. The Catalyst. 10 years of sleep versus 37 years of swings. Right, so after a whole decade of doing absolutely nothing, a mysterious dream finally jolts our lazy noble right out of bed. And the contrast here is just staggering. You've got 10 years of complete physical and emotional paralysis, interrupted by this bizarre recurring dream. In it, he watches a nameless, completely untalented man, and for 37 years in this dream sequence, this man just swings a sword, every single day. Through snow, rain, old age, it doesn't matter. His technique is mediocre, sure, but he's got this unstoppable iron will. Witnessing this 37-year grind play out within his own mind creates this profound mental shift. On his very first day waking up from this revelation, Eren finally picks up a sword himself.
And it's not just any sword he goes for either. He chooses this massive, heavy, wooden two-handed sword, exactly like the guy in his dream. The physical weight of this weapon is honestly absolutely crucial here. It acts as a brilliant visual metaphor. Basically, every time Eren awkwardly and exhaustingly swings this giant piece of wood, he's physically grinding away the iron stake of trauma that's been lodged in his heart since childhood. The burning pain in his muscles finally starts to drown out the pain in his mind.
That brings us to Section 2, the Crucible, entering the Chrono Academy.
Driven by this strange newfound compulsion, Eren makes a super bold move. He leaves his room completely and enrolls in the continent's most ruthless, prestigious school for swordsmen. Now, the uphill battle he's facing is insane. Think about it. On one hand, you have Eren, zero natural talent, carrying around a clunky heavy sword and getting a super late start in life. But he has this infinite, almost terrifying focus borrowed straight from his dreams. Then on the other hand, you have his peers, the so-called Golden Generation. We're talking about students like Ilya, Bart, and Judith. These kids are innate prodigies. They have dazzling, flashy techniques, massive competitive egos, and years of top-tier training. The contrast couldn't be any sharper.
And let me tell you, the Academy pulls absolutely no punches. Their preliminary physical evaluation is this grueling, multi-step circuit designed specifically to break the students. You start with long-distance running, followed immediately by box jumps, then intense weightlifting, and it tops off with long-distance swimming. Now, Eren, who has barely exercised a day in his entire life, pushes his body so far past its biological limits during this circuit that he nearly collapses. I mean, he's practically coughing up blood just trying to keep up.
But here's the thing. His performance isn't just about physical dominance. It's about pure character. Throughout his time at the Academy, Eren totally ignores the mockery from the other nobles. He pushes through his own exhaustion, and he completely rejects flashy moves. He literally only practices the most basic, fundamental vertical slash over and over again. And remember that grueling swimming evaluation? He actually sacrifices his own test ranking to dive back in and save his fiercely competitive rival Judith from drowning. It's this single act of pure, unselfish willpower that ends up earning him the quiet, watchful respect of the legendary swordmaster Ian.
Eventually, even the most arrogant prodigy of the class, Bart Lloyd, has to acknowledge what he's seeing. Bart realizes that Eren possesses a terrifying, entirely different kind of genius. There's this great quote from him. Every genius says the same thing, but the density of his time is different. He uses 100% of what he has. While all the prodigies are coasting on innate skill, Eren is relying on an unbroken 100% concentration that simply cannot be taught. It's wild.
Which leads into Section 3,
the final evaluation, a single vertical strike.
So the students are tasked with demonstrating their absolute greatest potential, their personal style, to the visiting masters. There are no rules here, just show them your peak. After watching the prodigies unleash literally tornadoes of mana and these lightning-fast flurries of attacks, Eren steps up. He closes his eyes, slips into his dream state, and unleashes a single, devastating vertical slash. Just one swing. But this strike, born from the heavy weight of 37 years of phantom memories, carries so much raw, unadulterated power that it literally shatters the solid stone arena floor. It leaves everyone's jaws on the floor and manages to secure him an incredible second place overall.
Section 4. The Metamorphosis. Retreating into the Mind.
Now, you'd think he'd be trialed, right? But despite his massive success and all this newfound respect, Eren realizes a pretty horrifying truth. He isn't actually swinging his own sword. He's just mimicking the rage and determination of the man in his dreams. To find his own real reason to fight, he gets introduced to the mystical arts. This is essentially the study of using mana to bend the laws of nature, heavily driven by human willpower and desires. And his guide into this weird new world? It's completely unexpected. It's a magical, talking black cat named Ruru, who happens to recognize the deep, tangled willpower inside of him.
So, guided by Ruru, Eren does something drastic. Actually, scratch that, it's more like unbelievable. Using the mystical arts, he literally retreats into a metaphysical room within his own subconscious, and he stays in this mental isolation for a staggering 5 years. For half a decade in the real world, his body just sits in a coma-like state, while his mind is busy forging a spiritual path that is completely separate from the man in his dreams. He's relentlessly searching for his own true foundation.
Moving to Section 5, The Master's Return, Stepping Back into the World. When Eren finally opens his eyes 5 years later, he is older, he's vastly stronger, and his education takes a super interesting philosophical turn. He starts traveling alongside this wise orc shaman, and he quickly learns that the outside world is heavily morally gray. It's complex, you know? Good and evil aren't always cleanly separated into neat little boxes like they were back in academy training exercises.
So the big question is, how does he apply his 5 years of intense mental training to these messy gray areas? Well, when he's faced with ruthless mountain bandits who just want to collect a toll, he doesn't just slaughter them. Instead, he intimidatingly diffuses the situation without shedding any unnecessary blood. But when he's faced with truly evil, demon-tainted orcs, no hesitation. He instantly summons his glowing sword of willpower to protect innocent merchants. And when dealing with corrupt nobles, he firmly stands his ground using his newfound status. He learns to approach every single threat with this perfect blend of decisive, overwhelming action and deep, deep empathy.
And all of this culminates in Eren's ultimate realization. He has successfully pulled out that iron stake of his childhood trauma. He actively refuses to let the Dream Man's lingering rage and hatred control his blade anymore. Instead, he realizes he swings his sword for a remarkably pure reason, to create a world where people can just be happy. He has successfully defined his own destiny, completely separate from the ghosts of his past and the heavy expectations of his mentors.
Which leads straight into his massive climactic turning point. Standing before a genuinely terrifying demonic enemy, Eren finally declares his true motivation loudly and proudly for everyone to hear. He says, "I will walk the path of the hero." Not a path of revenge, not a path driven by ego, but a pure path of protection.
Finally, Section 6, Rising to the Top, Catching the Eyes of the Masters.
Eren's subsequent journey sees him entering these fierce, high-stakes tournaments, catching the attention of the absolute top masters on the continent and proving once and for all that extreme effort can absolutely blossom into something even greater than natural talent. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to turn Eren's profound realization back onto you. We've seen how a boy went from a full decade of sleep to walking the path of a hero simply by finding his true motivation. So when you look at your own daily grind, your own efforts, what is the real reason you fight? Think on that for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.